Hey, thank you, Will. An energetic crowd has gathered here for the NTT Championship Trophy presentation. Thank you all for being here. And we'll start with the Manufacturers Trophy, that presentation. Want to welcome Doug Bowles, president of INDYCAR, and also the president of Honda USA. David Salters, welcome, gentlemen, if we could, take the stage. A few words from Doug.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, NTT, for an amazing championship this year. This is the 11th time that Honda gets to hoist this trophy. Congratulations. It's the 5th time in 8 seasons that you've done it. What an amazing season. 12 wins, 10 poles. It's been outstanding. Thank you so much for all the help that Honda's given us this year. It's been an amazing year. We look forward to seeing you again next year as you and Chevy battled out. But congrats on the 11th, and I think we get to give you a trophy here shortly. But congrats, David.
Thank you, and as always, thank you to all our boys and girls who have worked really hard. Thank you to all our teams, Alex, and thank you most importantly to all the fans. Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right, thank you. Congratulations, a round of applause for Honda and the Manufacturers Trophy. Well done. And now time to celebrate the championship team. And you can see the 10 Honda has rolled in here as you pause for some photos. And we want to welcome in the owner and his team, Chip Ganassi, Ganassi Racing, and the crew. You should all come on up here. Chip is here somewhere. Come on up, Chip. Congratulations. The 17th IndyCar Championship, equaling the most there is. Appreciate that. Does your crew want to come up here as well? Do they want? We're going to have Alex wait, but have the crew. Yep, have the crew come up. Yep. Chip, let me just ask you how sweet this one is. 6 different drivers, but boy, Alex, 3 in a row, his 4th overall. You knew it happened early, but it still feels great, doesn't it?
I'll tell you, Chris, the guy's amazing. I said on your show at the beginning of the year on Fox, I said that this guy has a lot more in his tank, and I tell you what, he hasn't hit the ceiling yet.
Yeah, he's only 28. I believe it's his 5th year with you. What did you see in Alex Palou early that you said, this is our guy and we can win championships with him?
I'll tell you, Chris, he's just a hard worker on and off the track. He's always after it. You know, he tied the championship up a few weeks ago, but he never gave up the will to win, and there's a lot to be said for that. The last 2 weeks pushing into, couldn't quite get it done, but I mean, that's a lot to be said for a guy like that. After he wins, to keep pushing.
No race team owner more successful in the first 35 years as you and your teams. Let's welcome in your driver, Alex Palou. The crew is here. Where is Alex? Alex coming. Oh, here he's coming on up. Alex, congratulations. Let me just talk about what the challenge was, first of all, on finishing out the year, knowing that you captured the championship here, and we'll hand you that in just a moment. But the challenge, once you knew you had the championship, to still finish strong. I know you had a target of a certain number of wins, 8 outstanding, 13 podium finishes, also 700 laps led. Those are all your records during the year. We can't keep track of all of them, but congratulations.
Thank you. It's been an amazing season for us, for the 10 car, everybody at CGR and Honda that worked so hard to get this rocket ship. But I just had the pleasure to drive it, honestly. I just had the pleasure to be the driver of that number 10 DHL Honda car, to get so many wins and so many podiums this year. These last 2 races, even though we won the championship, we wanted to win so bad. I tried everything. I didn't really have that confidence today to go on that second lane, but yeah, we tried everything we could. Team did an amazing job on pit stops again and strategy, and can't wait for next year.
This was such a dominant season. You won right out of the box at St. Pete and dominated early. So what told you that, again, I have the championship stuff? And I guess the most recent one is always the sweetest, correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, it is. But, I mean, when you walk at the shop at CGR, you can see that everybody, even though they've won, I think now 17 IndyCar championships, everybody's like super hungry as if they've never won. So the work they put in, everybody, it's pretty insane, and that's why we're able to be here today.
Yeah, just 28 years old. You still got the record in sight, so you'll be able to add to that. In time for the championship ring, we have Jack Bruns from Jostens to present. This is what they do. If you want to step in front here, you two, and present that championship ring and get a photo of you've got plenty more. Oh, that's cool. It opens up. Can you see that? Show a tight shot of that for the people at home watching. Very nice. Well done. Jostens. All right. Good stuff. All right, you. That's great. And you got a lot more fingers, right? You could use a few more.
We can keep on going, yeah.
All right, we want to present the championship trophy. If we can bring up, it's the Astro Cup. You can hear me okay here. All right, want to make sure. Executive Vice President of Penske Entertainment, CEO Mark Miles, and also from NTT, Takashi Hiroe is here as well. Nice to see both of you, and you can actually present this to. I'll hold the mic.
Like I was saying, like everybody starts.
Sorry, these guys celebrating. These are the guys that are going to do the actual.
We've done this before.
Yeah, let's do it.
3 in a row, man.
Yeah, more to
Hiroe
come.
San from NTT and I are
Congratulations.
Thank you.
honored to give you this trophy. So we hopefully don't drop the top.
No, don't do it.
All right, sterling silver. Your name will be etched, actually lasered in to this. Commissioned over 100 years ago. Your champion, Alex Palou, his 10 Honda and Ganassi Racing. That was pretty heavy.
It is.
All right. Congrats to all of you. Thanks for a great season. All right, we appreciate it on Fox.
And with that, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Push to Pass podcast. I am Derik Vance, and I will bring in our co-host of the show here shortly. But yes, last weekend, Alex Palou crowned the 2025 NTT INDYCAR Series champion, and that does wrap up the 2025 season, and that's what we're going to do this evening here on the Push to Pass podcast, the last episode for season 3, if you can believe it, that we made it all the way through 3 full seasons. Now, we're going to do things in a little bit of a reverse order here this evening. First, we're going to go about some news and notes from the last time that we spoke. Apparently, there has been some movements, some moving and shaking in the paddock, so we'll discuss those. Apparently, if you've been living under a rock, you missed it. But yeah, there's been some moving and shaking, and then something that Michael actually had a great idea on, and again, I'll bring them on here shortly. We're going to go through our team grades, team by team, of how we thought they performed this year, and then again, we'll close things out here and put a wrap on season 3. But before we get into any of that, let's bring the guys in. As you see, Josh there thinks his headset is a 1-bar Morton Anderson helmet there. But again, bringing everyone in, again, 3 full seasons, if we can believe that or not. First, I'll turn things over to Josh. How are you this evening?
Fantastic. It's closing time for this season of Push to Pass podcast, and it's been a great season. Great having all our guests on, from Miles Rowe to Cusick Motorsports, Don Cusick. They made an announcement early last week, and we got them on. Then we got Don on last week, so it's been one heck of a season.
Yeah, definitely agree there, and obviously we will, before the end, we will thank everyone that made an appearance on this 3rd season of the Push to Pass podcast. But let's not forget, Michael, how are you doing tonight as well?
Yeah, doing pretty good. Ready to recap this season and kind of give out some grades. I messaged you guys earlier, and I feel like I was pretty harsh, but tough reality we live in these days. But it'd be definitely interesting to see how we've graded everyone this season.
Yeah, I definitely can't wait to go through that. As you see right here, as the late, great Rush Limbaugh would say, in my formerly nicotine-stained hands. Right here are my grades for 2025. But before we get into that, like I said, we do have some new news. Surprisingly, we kind of hinted towards some of these moves last week, but we weren't wrong. And so far, we've hit the nail on the head. We'll get to them here first momentarily. But, fellas, we're waiting patiently as the schedule matriculates out or trickles out here, but we do know that we're going to be racing in Canada in 2026, not in Toronto, but in Markham. And I knew I was going to mess this up. Let me try that on it. Yes, right there. Yes, we're going to be in Markham, Ontario. That was announced last week, and that's going to take place August 16th. If you're unfamiliar with Markham, Ontario, as myself, just a little bit of background, then I'll throw it over to the guys to let them chime in a little bit. But Markham, Ontario is located just north of Toronto's eastern municipal boundary and in the York region. It is a 12-turn, 2.19-mile street course that's going to be the new temporary home of the Ontario Honda Dealers Grand Prix, while the World Cup apparently takes over Exhibition Place. And as I said, this is going to debut in Markham August 14th through the 16th of 2026. So, fellas, Toronto race announced, obviously not going to be in Toronto, but it's going to be in Markham, Ontario instead. Thoughts?
This just kind of feels like when they moved away from Belle Isle. The race was in Detroit, but it was always in Belle Isle. Now it's as opposed to it was in Belle Isle and it went to the main place of Detroit. This is kind of like a reverse. They put a Uno Reverso card down. They left the big city of Toronto and they're moving to Markham. I'd love to know the motivation behind this. It'd be interesting to know. But I mean, it's a new track. Everyone loves to see a new track. It means that there's new layout, so there's possibly more. You get new winners, and the drivers have to go into it unknowing of what all to expect. So it'll be interesting to watch it next year.
Yeah, I think it's I think most of it's to do with the World Cup, if I'm not mistaken. But at the same time, like Josh said, it's good for drivers to experience a new track, new layout, new challenges for the teams and everyone involved. So I think it's okay to shake things up a little bit. This is the hometown of James Hinchcliffe, so that'll be kind of cool to for him to go back home, and there'll be an actual race there in his hometown. So, I think it's good for IndyCar to kind of venture outside their comfort zone a little bit. I like the fact that they didn't leave Canada altogether because of the World Cup. So I think this is perfect setup for IndyCar. Have to stay north of the border. And hopefully, as the schedule comes out, maybe we'll even go south of the border. I know the Pato Award fans would love that down in Mexico. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that happens.
Yeah, definitely waiting to see what happens there. A little bit of intrigue that I'm hearing from that. There has been a lot of potential talk that Michael may fall through. And if it does, obviously, I know you've probably seen the same things that I have and that Josh has, but a lot of chatter if Mexico City does fall through in 2026, maybe potentially seeing a race in Washington, D.C. Obviously, Fox is going to have a lot of influence into that. We'll wait and see what happens there. But yes, I would love to see not only the IndyCar obviously returning to Canada and Markham, but I would love to see them be able to expand the brand a little bit and not only go north of the border in Canada, but go south of the border. Don't drink the water in Mexico for sure. But we'll see how that goes. All right, next piece of news that came out this week since the last time that we spoke. What a shot in the arm the ratings got for Fox for the last race of the season in Nashville. If you didn't see this, Fox late last week did announce what the TV rating was for the final race of the 2025 NTT INDYCAR season. And believe it or not, Fox recorded a audience size of 1,160,000 142,000 viewers who turned in to see Joseph Newgarden collect his first win of the season. Now, this jumps off the charts because compared to last year's race on NBC and Peacock and those networks, the viewership only eclipsed 482,568. So this is a 136% growth from the race last year being on NBC. The race did peak at 1,338,000 between 4:30 and 4:35. So, fellas, want to get your thoughts on what an exciting end for Fox, especially when it comes to the viewership side of things.
Definitely. Great to see that. We love to see bigger numbers. Bigger numbers equal more viewers. More viewers equal possibility of growing and getting new fans in. I definitely think that this year the finish being just before the start of NFL really helped. Last year in 2024, the Nashville race was on September 15th of 2024. So that was going on during the football season, during NFL. So that might have drastically taken the numbers down. I understand last year was due to the Olympics. They had to take some time off, so they had to push it back. But I think if they finish out the race season right before NFL season, I think that's a great thing for them. They don't have to compete with a juggernaut like the NFL, and I'm excited for it, and see what next year. See if Fox is going to keep every single race on Fox, or if they're going to switch it, some of them to FS1. I don't know. I would hope that they would continue the strong momentum that they have, and keep it all on Fox next year.
Yeah, Josh, I totally agree. I hope everything stays on the main network, Fox. I know they just introduced Fox One, their streaming platform, so that could be an option for fans as well who don't have cable or anything like that, kind of fans like me. But as far as TV viewership, obviously that's awesome for IndyCar, especially how we talked. I know, Derik, you and I were talking quite a bit about the ratings, and, with Alex Palou clinching, how's that going to affect ratings? It really didn't hurt the TV ratings all that much. And if you go back to that screenshot you had there of the start finish line there at Nashville, you can see the actual stands were pretty full there as well. So to have a good attendance at the racetrack, have good viewership on TV, those are all highlights and positives for Fox to go into 2026. Josh, I think you're spot on with starting before the NFL. I wouldn't mind a race, if we drug the season out a little bit, maybe week 2 or 3 of the NFL season. But that could be the final race. If you want to compete with the NFL, you can't have it on the first week of the NFL season. I think NASCAR felt that this weekend as well. So good numbers for Fox, and just can't wait till the schedule's announced and we see where those TV channels line up.
Yeah, to both your points. First, I do think Fox needs to do everything within their power to keep IndyCar on that main Fox Sports channel or your local Fox station, whatever that may be. Obviously, the ratings show that when IndyCar regulars and maybe people new to IndyCar, when they know that race is going to be on Fox, it's not going to be on FS1, it's not going to be on FS2, it's not going to be on Fox 1, when it's going to be on that main Fox channel, people are definitely tuning in. So we'll see if Fox listens to IndyCar Nation in 2026. All right, next piece of news that we knew was coming. It was just a matter of when. Obviously, it does relate to Willpower being released by Team Penske. It was revealed, and I don't know if you guys heard this or not, but it sounds like in the middle of the year, maybe around Mid-Ohio, somewhere around there, that is when Andretti approached Will Power and asked how to gauge his interest in driving for Andretti. But yes, Colton Herta finally was able to land a seat per se with a F1 team. Obviously, it was announced last week by Cadillac, the Cadillac Formula One team, that 9-time NTT INDYCAR Series winner Colton Herta is going to be tabbed as their new test driver, which I didn't know was a thing, for the 2026 FIA Formula One World Championship season, which ultimately will end for now. This sounds like the door may still be open, but for now, for the foreseeable future, that's going to put an end to Colton Herta's career right now and for the foreseeable future on the NTT IndyCar Series. So, fellas, thoughts on Colton Herta finally getting what he's wanted, and honestly, is well deserved.
Is it well deserved? I mean, you got better drivers on the on IndyCar circuit that anyone could have chose from. I understand who he's going to drive for, but I mean, what was Colton Herta really that consistent? I mean, I know I'm just playing devil's advocate because, I mean, I'm excited for him. You know what? Go over there, be an American, make your mark. But you know, I heard someone talking the other day, and it just did Colton Herta really deserve this, or did he just happen to fall into it because he's expressed such passion to want to go to F1, and he just happened to luck into a drive? I mean, that's just my thoughts about
it. Yeah. So, Josh, I'm going to be right there with you. I think Colton Herta has the potential. We've seen it in IndyCar, and I praised him earlier this year because 2 years ago, was it Nashville, where he had the dominant car, sat on the pole, led a ton of laps, and he had a bad pit stop. He lost his mind. He was driving the car way too hard, and he ended up crashing. And he's had many of those races. And this year alone, Colton Herta has grown exponentially. His maturity is growing. His racecraft has grown. And him at the racetrack, being there at the racetrack, has grown as well. He's been a little bit more, fan friendly. So those were all positives I've seen from Colton this year. Now, is he in the right position at the right time? I would say yes. Dan Towers, if you haven't heard it, I suggest you go and listen to the full interview that James Hinchcliffe and Alex Rossi had on their podcast. You can hear everything that Dan had to say, Colton had to say, and Will Power had to say. They all three were on there. And basically, this was Dan Towers' idea. And it sounds like Colton is obviously going to be the test driver for the Cadillac F1 team. And it sounds like he's going to do some F2 driving as well to acquire those license points that he needs. This wasn't something Colton had expressed interest in moving to Formula One. That's well known. That's been years in the making. What this was Dan's idea. He went to Colton, but the only reason this actually happened is because of Will Power to an extent. Because when Will's contract wasn't going to be renewed and Roger allowed Will to go talk to some teams, Will went to Dan and was like, I want to drive for Andretti. That's how this whole thing kind of started, because Dan knew he could get Will Power, the talent of Will Power, into their cars. That allowed Dan to come up with this idea on getting Colton into Formula One. Now, it's not a given that he will drive in Formula One. Dan was kind of specific on that. Colton has to prove himself. So this whole situation is kind of the perfect storm, I would say. And it's perfect for Colton. He gets to go and explore something different. And Colton has shown, especially on road and street courses, that he has the talent. If he has the team and he has the car, he has the talent. So I think this is a perfect opportunity for him to go get his feet wet. Maybe there is some rumors I've heard. There's a potential that he could be entered into the Indy 500, potentially. It's not guarantee or anything like that. I would expect him to maybe show face at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but we'll see about that. And then, obviously getting Will Power into the 26 is big for Andretti as well.
I think you make a lot of valid points. Obviously, I think the last one is the most important. Well, the second to last one is the most important. From everything that I've heard, this does not completely shut the door, as you alluded to, of Colton Herta coming back to IndyCar. This does not absolutely shut the door on Colton Herta participating in the Indianapolis 500. But for the foreseeable future, he is not going to participate in the NTT INDYCAR Series, and he is going to put his focus over on F1. So we wish him the best of luck, and hopefully, things work out for him. As Michael alluded to, this has been something that has been in the works for a very long time. And, Colton, as the old adage says, he struck when the iron was hot. And that's exactly what happened. And great lead in to our last news and notes for the week from last week, obviously with Colton Herta announcing that he is going to Cadillac Formula F1 team. That does open the number 26 seat up, and it didn't take Will Power wasn't on the open market very long. Obviously, we're alluding to the fact that Andretti Global has announced that they have the intention to sign Will Power, and he's going to be driving the number 26 Andretti Honda for 2026. And what a solid stable. And I know Michael just alluded to this, but what a solid stable Andretti has going into 2026. You have obviously Will Power, the wily veteran. We've seen what Kyle Kirkwood was able to do this year with the amount of wins that he secured. And let's not forget Marcus Ericsson, who it does seem like his career has taken a step back since joining Andretti Global. But don't forget the fact that Marcus Ericsson is not only a Indianapolis 500 winner, but he has won on other tracks as well. So just a solid stable all around that Andretti Global is going to have going into 2026.
Definitely big pickup for Andretti. Will Power obviously feels like he has some rubber left on his tires, so to speak, and he wasn't on the open market for very long. It's interesting that we didn't hear about any negotiations or any talks throughout the season. Typically if a driver's going out and talking to other teams, somehow, some way nowadays it gets leaked, and for, we kind of figured that Will wasn't going to be back to Penske, but the fact that Penske gave him the option to go out and talk to other teams during the season, and it didn't get out is a, or at least I didn't hear it. Maybe you guys heard it, but that was surprising to me. And it is a good stable of drivers. Maybe Power can come over and sit down with Ericsson and see if he can help him get back on track from the couple years ago after he won the race, and then the next year came in second to Newgarden when Newgarden won his first one. The controversial green, white, checkered that they had there at the end. So it's good. I think one of the biggest adjustments that IndyCar fans are going to have is the fact that Will Power will not be driving for Verizon anymore. I mean, how long was Verizon his main sponsor? So they're gonna, if you're a Will Power fan, you're gonna have to go out and buy a new shirt.
Yeah, you make a great point there. Will Power fans are going to be really confused for a minute on trying to figure out sponsors and things like that. But yeah, a great pickup for Andretti. Will kind of talked about it in his interview. You know, Roger gave him the green light to kind of talk to some other teams. I think it was after Detroit, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what Will said. And you know, it was a big challenge, you know, for Will, because he's never had to do that. If we're being honest, I mean, he's been with Verizon and Team Penske for 17 years. Won 2 championships, an Indy 500, set the leadership all-time pole wins. So yeah, it's going to be a big change. Will did say he's very excited to see what a Honda feels like. I think the last time he was in a Honda was in 2012, 2013 maybe. Right before Chevy come back in, Honda was the main engine supplier for all the cars. So, you know, he's excited. I think he's really excited to see what the Hondas can do. And obviously we've seen how well Kyle Kirkwood was this year, picking up 3 wins. And, you know, he put Will Power in one of those Andretti cars on the road and street courses. He may be hard to stop. So, be very interesting to see. I think the most relatable thing that I could get from Will Power out of the interview he had is he's not had a cell phone bill in 17 years because he had Verizon as a sponsor. So he'll have to start paying a cell phone bill next year, which is kind of funny when you think about it. But definitely be interesting to follow Will Power through this transition in his motorsports career. And one of the big things that he talked about is he wants to be competitive. He wants to show people that the age thing that's always brought up, well, drivers who hit a certain age, they can't drive anymore. He wants to put that to rest. He wants to prove to people that that's just a myth. He'll be 44, or is he 44? He's somewhere in that mid 40s, and he wants to show people that you can still be competitive at that age.
So my main question is he going to have to switch providers now that he is not sponsored by Verizon anymore? That'll be something worth watching for sure. All right, before we take a short little break and hear from our sponsors, any one of you two, Josh or Michael, is there any other news that came across the IndyCar desk this week that I may have missed?
Not that I can think of. You did a really good job, as always.
Just double checking a few things here. I don't think so, but you know, we have partial the schedule that's been leaked kind of here or there, but you know, nothing dramatic. I don't think that you forgot, but yeah, I can keep you updated.
Yeah, absolutely. If you follow the Push to Pass podcast on any of the social media outlets that you see periodically,
Derik, I have one news item.
Keep you up to date as this silly season unfolds. There's still a few more seats waiting to be filled, so we're waiting with bated breath to see how that goes out. And then, as Michael alluded to, we're still waiting on the schedule for 2026 to be released. We do have, I think, maybe a handful of dates that we're sure of, but we're still waiting for obviously that full schedule to come out, and when it does, obviously we'll bring it to you for sure. All right, like I said, we do need to hear from a few of our sponsors, so let's get to that before we get into our team grades and then put a big bow on season 3 of the Push to Pass podcast. We're always proud here on the Push to Pass podcast to be sponsored by these amazing sponsors, and we're always looking to add more to them. First and foremost, proud to be sponsored by Always Ready 1776. For all your patriotic apparel, headwear, and more, go check out what is in store at Always Ready 1776. You can find them on the web at alwaysready1776.com. And if you do choose to find something there that you want to purchase, make sure you use the promo code PUSH2PASS for 10% off of your order. Always Ready 1776. Another proud sponsor of the Push to Pass podcast is Gettum Associates. For all your home design, build, and remodeling needs, remember, it's Gettum Associates. And you can find them on the web as well at gettum.com. Browse their selection. And if you do find something that fits your home like a glove, remember to use that promo code you see down there at the bottom, Push to Pass, for $250 off any design service over at Gettum Associates. And then Diane's Landscaping for tree service, fertilizing, topsoil removal, grass cutting, garden cleanups, hedge trimming, and so much more. Go check out Diane's Landscaping. You can find them on Facebook just by searching Diane's Landscaping, or give them a call today at 419-770-2332. That is Diane's Landscaping. Huge thank you to all three sponsors that have been here. Well, two of them anyway, since day number one, adding Diane's Landscaping this season. But huge thank you to all of them for being proud sponsors of the Push to Pass podcast. All right, getting into the meat and potatoes of tonight's show. This was an idea that Michael pitched, and I think it's a great idea. I usually don't say much to them about Michael's ideas. I'm kidding. But I thought this was a great idea, great exercise. Indeed, before we wrap up the 2025 season and the third season here on the Push to Pass podcast. And what I'm talking about is Michael had the idea to do an exercise of going through and grading each team's performance in the 2025 season. So I do have these in alphabetical order, so it's easy to follow along with us. If you want to give us your grades, always chime in on if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, and we will post your grades for the teams during the show. All right, fellas, the first one that comes to mind, if the graphic does come up here, there we go, is AJ Foyt Racing. Now, they had the number 4 machine of David Malukas and the number 14 of Santino Ferrucci. Collectively, they were they collected 6 top 5s this year to go along with 11 top 10s, and I give them a C. Fellas, what about you?
I gave him a C minus.
I also give them a C minus. All the hype behind David Malukas coming in, how well he is on the ovals. Same with Santino Ferrucci. Underwhelming this year. Honestly, I expected more out of them. They kind of, honestly, if I'm honest, they took a decline this year than last year. So yeah, C minus for me.
All right, so we are definitely 1 for 1 when it comes to AJ Foyt Racing. All right, the next racing team that we're going to discuss, and I would love to, I know, Josh, you gave them a grade, but I'd love to hear the reason why that you gave that grade. But next team up was Andretti Global with the number 26 Colton Herta, number 27 Kyle Kirkwood, number 28 Marcus Erickson, and then the number 98 machine of Marco Andretti, which obviously was a one-off for the Indianapolis 500. 3 wins, 3 poles, 11 top 5s, and 20 top 10s. I gave Andretti Global a B.
I gave him a C because yes, they had wins. They had top tens, but they just weren't as consistent as I would have loved them to be. You guys said you were harsh on them. I was harsh on pretty much every single one of these, and there's going to be one that you're going to find a real surprise, because I bet you guys gave him a much better grade. But on Andretti, I gave him a C.
On Andretti, I give him a C plus. So Josh and I are kind of hitting on all the right notes here. And most of it is, Kyle Kirkwood had 3 wins, but he finished 4th in the standings. He was, good there for a minute, and then he kind of fell off. Colton was just, consistently there, top 10, and the 28 was nowhere to be found half the year. Looks like they were having all sorts of issues on that car. So yeah, C plus for me, and that's probably a little too much, but yeah. I originally had them at a B, and I changed it. I said, no, that B, it's just not, they weren't good enough for a B. So C plus for me.
All right, a little bit of different here for Andretti Global in 2025. Moving on to the team that I can sometimes be a homer to, but I think I was pretty justified with this. They did have their ups and downs, and that is Arrow McLaren, the number 5 of Pato Award, number 6 Nolan Siegel, number 7 Christian Lundgaard, and then the number 17 of Kyle Larson, who obviously was a Indy 500 entry only. Arrow McLaren picked up 2 wins this season, followed up with 3 poles, 16 top 5s, and 25 top 10s. I gave them a B.
Arrow got my second highest grade of all the teams. I gave them a B plus. I would have loved to see them have more wins. I would have loved to seen multiple drivers win a race other than just Pato. So I've talked about them this year. I talked about them last year. They're just not as consistent as I would like. This year they got a little bit more consistent. They just need to get up there and not have like what happened with Pato at the end of the season in Nashville. Figure out what went wrong there and make sure it doesn't happen. Because I mean, when you're the guy's on a rocket ship and then all of a sudden it just breaks, what happened. So that seems like that happens more and more for Arrow. 2 years ago, I believe it was in the first race, St. Pete, you had Pato that stalled, and cost him a race. So for them, I gave them a B plus.
I was probably the most critical of this team. Maybe there's another team that got pretty harsh, but I give them a C plus as well. The beginning of the year, Christian Lundgaard was. I thought he was the hot driver. I thought for sure he was gonna take it to Alex Palou, and then Indy got here and he just kind of faded away. Pato kind of took his place, stuck there with 2 wins, a couple poles there towards the end of the year. Led 258 laps this year, but the one domino that fell was Nolan Siegel. I mean, he barely made it in on leader circle points, and for that team to have a car that low in the points to where they're just barely making it in on leader circles, that's just not acceptable for that caliber of a team. So C plus for me.
All right. What a interesting outcome that we've had so far, going over the first 3 racing teams' grades of the 2025 season. All right, next one on the docket is Chip Ganassi Racing, and I think everyone's probably going to have a good idea when I rattle off what they were able to accomplish this year, and probably kind of figure out real quickly what kind of grade that I gave them. Obviously, you had the number 8, Kiffin Simpson, number 9, Scott McLaughlin, and apparently this number 10, Alex Palou guy. I don't know if he was a rookie or whatnot, but one championship this year for Chip Ganassi Racing. Sorry, that's their third in a row, by the way. Apparently, it's number 10 guys really good at racing. 9 wins. Obviously, I know they were all by, well, 8 of them, I think, were by one guy. 6 poles. Let's flip the sheet over here. Yes, that's how many accolades that Chip Ganassi Racing had this year. 22 top 5s and collectively 33 top 10s. There was, you talk about a unanimous grade. Chip Ganassi, for me, got an A.
I gave him an A-, only because it didn't seem like, and I know Pelot overshadowed everybody in that team, but it just didn't seem like any other driver jumped out to me that really, took the reins and ran with anything other than on that team except for Pelot this year. I may be wrong, and I may get hate for it, but I gave him an A-. I mean, they got the highest grade that I've given to a team, so A-.
Josh, I feel like we're in high school and you're copying my notes. I give them an A- as well, and mine specifically come down to the 8 car. Nowhere to be seen most of the year. I mean, he finished 17th in the points. His other 2 teammates finished 1st and 3rd. Wrap up that 8 car and get them into the top 7 or 8, and they've got an A+. But right now, A- for them, even though Alex Pelot dominated the season. But, hey, one outlier can really bump your grade in my categories here.
All right. The next team on the board, and I'm about willing to go out on a limb here and say that Josh and Michael graded this team the highest so far after we talk about them. But the next team on the board is everyone's favorite. It's like that. It's like that uncle that you always love to see, but you only get to see him once a year. Dale Coyne Racing. You had the number 18 with Renus VK, who's going to be on the move from all intents and purposes that we've heard. And number 51, Jacob Abel, who, believe it or not, could be on the move as well. So you could see 2 new drivers for Dale Coyne Racing next year. So we're big again. We're back to the dartboard from last year. But Dale Coyne Racing was able to accumulate 2 top 5s, 7 top 10s, and I graded them out on a D.
I wasn't as harsh on them. I gave them a C-. I mean, that's all. That's one grade higher. But yeah, I gave them a C-. Nothing really stuck out, but nothing really stuck out, but nothing really detracted from them. They just kind of did what they did and went on, and we may be back to, like Derik said, the dartboard method next year.
Well, I give them a C+, and the reason I did is because they stuck with both drivers all year. The one downside for them was poor Jacob Abel missing the Indy 500. But, Renus VK really held that team up. I mean, they showed what that team is capable of. He's not returning next year, which I actually feel bad for Dale Coyne Racing, because his leadership and his experience obviously is it's really turned that program around. 2 top 5s. He finished 4th at Birmingham, and he finished 2nd in Toronto. Almost had a chance to win that race, which was crazy. Good strategy calls. They're getting some more money involved in that team. So I feel like they're on the uptick. So I give them a C+. Obviously, the one downfall, like I said, was in Indy when Jacob Abel was unable to make the Indy 500. But, overall, I feel like, they put the dartboard away, and that got them a C+.
Michael, I see what you did there where Abel was unable to make the 500. I seen what you did there. I caught what you're putting down. All right, next team up on the board to grade out is Ed Carpenter Racing. obviously with the number 20 of Alexander Rossi, number 21 Christian Rasmussen, and then you had the number 33 of Ed Carpenter, which was the Indy 500 only. New branding, new sponsorship, new driver. They did pick up one win there late in the season. They collected 4 top 5s, 13 top 10s, and I graded them to a C.
I also gave them a C, just because there's not a lot of expectations out there for. I mean, I know they have high expectations in their own garage, in their own facility, but if you talk to the typical diehard IndyCar fan, and you said what are your expectations of Ed Carpenter Racing, I don't think there'd be too high of expectations, and for them to eke out a win, not eke out, but be able to pull away and get a win for the season, I think that warranted give them a C.
I promise you, my grade is solely on the performance of the team and not Java House. Okay. Now, saying that, Java House is great activation at the racetrack. Great money flow into the series, sponsored the race out in Monterey. But I gave them a C as well. Just kind of middle of the pack. I mean, obviously Rasmussen getting the win. Milwaukee was big for the organization. Obviously, first win since the Indy GP when Rinus VeeKay won for them. But it's just kind of the normal ebbs and flows of Ed Carpenter Racing. They need to pick it up a little bit. I mean, they've got a lot of money flowing into that team now, so hopefully they can improve next year.
Now, and I love the caveat that you put out there, Michael. But are you basing your grade on the level of enjoyment that you had, not only having Java House at the track, but also going to one of the pop-up stores? Is that where you got that grade from, or did you solely put your Java House experience to the side and be unbiased? And actually unbiased opinion. None of the actions at the Java House pop-up store influenced my grade in any way. It was strictly based on the race team, and obviously, if you add in there, I mean, if you take the activation that they provide at the racetrack, which is probably, honestly, one of the best activations of any of the teams, I would say. They've done a great job this year. I hope they continue next year and even grow that a little bit. But no, the Java House issues that I have did not influence that grade in any way. That was strictly based on the performance of the race team. Okay, just checking. All right, next team on the board is Hucos Hollinger Racing. They had the number 76 Connor Daly, the local kid. Number 77, Josh's favorite, Stingray Rob. Don't let Josh fool you otherwise. They did collect 1 top 5 this year, 5 top 10s, and I grade them out to a D.
I gave them a C minus, just purely for the fact that it's an Ed Carpenter racing philosophy for me. Also, not a lot of expectations. Stingray, I don't know. He's got so much potential. I just don't know what his potential is. I don't know if it's just bad luck or what. And Connor Daly was up there. He competed sometimes up there. I mean, he was up there in a lot of races towards the end that had some strategies gone a little bit different. He would have been able to possibly pull a podium or even a win out. So I gave him a C minus.
I give him a D. Right there with Derik. Just nothing really improving. Stingray, this is his 3rd team in 3 years, and I didn't have a lot of expectations for him, but he had to run right there. I said at the beginning of the year, he has to stay with Connor Daly. If he can stay step by step with Connor, I think, that would be a win for him. Connor finished 18th in points, and up until Indianapolis, I would say Stingray was right there with him. They were kind of finishing right next to each other, running pretty well. And there towards the end, things kind of fell out the bottom for Stingray. He finished 25th in points. He finished behind, if I'm not mistaken, let me double check my notes here. He finished behind both of the Prema cars. I give him a D, and you could probably even step down to a D minus. I mean, third year in the series, he bumped that car out of the leader circle. So that's D is about as best as I could do for them. I don't know much more to say about that organization. They had a lot of high hopes coming into the year, and I kind of expected a little bit more out of Connor as well, especially on the ovals. But I think he had pretty good luck at Milwaukee, and like you said, he had one top 5 and 4 top 10s. So not much more to write about, and we'll see what that organization looks like next year.
Yeah, absolutely. That organization could be flipped upside down as well. All right, the next team on the board I thought was one of the more stronger teams consistently throughout the 2025 season, and that is Meyer Shank Racing. Obviously, they had the number 06 of Elio Castroneves, which was a Indy 500 only, and then you had the number 60 of Felix Rosenquist, and then newcomer number 66 Marcus Armstrong as well. Meyer Shank finished with 6 top 5s, 22 top 10s, and I gave them a solid C.
I gave him a D plus. I didn't. I know that's a controversial, but I just didn't. I didn't feel like they made an impact this year. I don't think. I just don't. I wasn't impressed with their season. I feel like they've got so much more that they can do and achieve, and I just wasn't impressed by their season this year.
I'm baffled by both your grades. We're so far off on this. It's kind of crazy. I'm a B plus for Meyer Shank Racing. Both drivers competitive all year. You look at 22 top 10s for the year, 6 top 5s. The laps led could have been a little bit more. Both cars finished top 10 in the points. Believe both cars beat out all 3 Penske cars. This team is you talk about the big 3. You talk about Chip Ganassi, you talk about Penske, and you talk about Andretti. These guys are right there with them. I give them a B plus, and there's not much you could say to change my mind from that.
And you know what? Michael, I think your assessment of Meyer Shank's absolutely right. They were in contention to win a couple races this year if a break goes their way or not, and that may have changed my grading if they would have been able to capture that one win, but they just couldn't quite clear that hurdle, and that's why I gave them what I gave them in a C. All right, next race team is we have 3 left to go. They were new to IndyCar this year, so the learning curve was very steep for Prema Racing, and it showed beginning of the year. But again, as I touched about with Meyer Shank, I thought gradually this team got better. We've seen that they were able to put rookie Robert Schwartzman on the pole for the Indianapolis 500, so that is a feat in itself. And, in the later parts of the year, they were able to race within the top 10. So that's Prema Racing with number 83, Robert Schwartzman, and number 90, Callum Ilott, 1 pole, and they were able to accomplish in their first year on the NTT INDYCAR circuit 6 top 10s, but that I can't get my head or I can't get my mind out of the way they started the season. I know they ended it, better than they started, but I still gave them a solid D.
I gave them a D minus, and the only reason they didn't get an F for me was because Schwartzman won the pole at Indy. Had it not been for that, they would have been a solid F. When you're talking about after your first year going down to one driver and possibly joining forces, combining with another team, they wanted to make a splash. They didn't make a splash. It was more like a bloop. They didn't do much except for that one miraculous 2 days in May where Schwartzman just drove the car like he had been driving for 20 years. So D minus. Wow, this is another crazy one for me. I give them a C, and they could have potentially. This is going out on a limb here. They could have potentially got to a B minus had they given me a pair of shoes. Okay, just put that out there. No, Prema. I mean, yes, you talk about the start of the season, how horrible it was. Got to thermal, and Schwartzman couldn't even. The first lap on the track was qualifying because his car burned up in practice. You look at all the hurdles they went through to begin the year, and then things started turning around. They got to Indy, and there's a very few things that I can relate to more, and that was standing on pit road when he crossed that finish line with that lap at Indy for the pole, and you could feel the ground shake from the cheers of the stands. It was absolutely incredible. And just after that, the all the publicity they got and all the the upbeat and the uplift and the Chevy execs going over there. That was pretty impressive. And Derik, you mentioned it towards the end of the season, they were competing there, in the top 10. You got Callum Ilott, who finished 21st in points, beat out Nolan Siegel, beat out, Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan car, the Hungos Hollinger car, actually beat out 2 Ray Hall cars. And Schwartzman come up 2 points short from Rookie of the Year. So for the start of the year to almost winning Rookie of the Year, I give them a C. I mean, pretty average down the road for them. So I hope they come back next year. I hope they can find some funding to come back, because that organization, with that Italian roots, it just gets some different eyeballs on the sport for sure. And Callum Ilott, who's been in the series now for a little bit and really has the potential if he can, get a car underneath him.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and I'm sure Josh is as well, that we would love to see, Prema Racing come up with some funding so they can stay in the sport next year and take what they learned this year and take it into 2026, because I think the sky's the limit for Prema Racing. That's all based on if they can find funding for next year. All right, we have 2 teams left. This team has been on a roller coaster, it seems like, for maybe the last 5 years or so, and that roller coaster obviously did not end this year, and that is Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing. Number 15, Graham Rahal. Number 30, Devlin DeFrancesca. Number 45, Louis Foster. And number 75, Takuma Sato, who was a Indianapolis 500 entry only. Obviously, going away, as Michael just alluded to there, Rookie of the Year with Louis Foster. They collected 1 pole, 1 top 5, and 4 top 10s. And I also gave them a solid D grading for the year.
I gave him a C minus. Louis Foster winning the Rookie of the Year, even though Michael may not agree with it, and how he in his last race, and how he was upset about Foster's taking somebody out. I can't remember. My brain doesn't work as well as it used to. But I give him that's what I gave him. So. They could be better. They have been better in the past. hopefully they can go back to the drawing board this year and figure out something so that they can run a little bit better.
Yes, they could be better. That should be their motto that they slap on the door for every time they walk in. They could be better. This team is horrendous. I mean, absolutely horrendous. With the amount of money they have coming in and the amount of sponsors they have, D-, and the only reason they got a D- is because they won the Rookie of the Year. They would have gotten F otherwise. There's nothing to write about here. I mean, it's just it's sad that you have, you know, a team of this caliber. You have Graham Rahal with years and years of experience. He finished 19th in points. The Rookie of the Year finished 23rd in points, and the 30 car finished 26th in points. He only finished 47 points ahead of a driver who didn't even compete in the Indy 500. So that is just horrible from an organizational standpoint. I know they hired Jay Fry, so you know, maybe he can turn things around this offseason, because if not, I mean, another highlight of their season was Takuma Sato, who ran the Indy 500. And from having one car that was absolutely phenomenal in the Indy 500 to one car barely making it, where is that organization at when, you know, Takuma Sato crashed in practice for the 500? They rebuilt him a brand new car and he was still just as fast, but the other three cars were out to lunch over in, you know, the south side of Indy. So D-, and, you know, like I said, if Foster didn't win Rookie of the Year, it would have been an F.
I think those are all solid questions, and I think Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan Racing is going to have to look in the mirror and answer as they turn the page to 2026. And a couple inside jokes I probably should have explained before we moved on. When Michael was talking about Prema and their shoes, every race that we went to this year, he tried his damnedest, folks, to try to get a pair of the Puma Prema racing shoes, but obviously his efforts were all for naught. But he can't say that he didn't have opportunities to, you know, get the 5-finger discount, but he just was all for naught this year with Prema racing shoes. And then Josh touched on his brain isn't working. I'm hoping that's not from too many margaritas a few weeks ago. Hopefully he's got those things cleared up. All right, last team that we have to grade out in the 2025 season. And if you've been following, everybody knows who this is going to be. And I can't wait to hear what the grades are going to be for Team Penske. Obviously, Joseph Newgarden, number 2, the number 3 machine of Scott McLaughlin, and then the former driver of Team Penske, number 12, Will Power. They were able to collect 2 wins this year, which is really low, obviously, for Team Penske in a season. 3 poles, 15 top 5s, 24 top 10s, and as much controversy that was around this team all year, from, you know, St. Petersburg last year to what was found this year at the Indianapolis 500, I still graded them out middle of the pack. I gave them a C.
I went back and forth on this one. This one was the hardest for me because do I grade on their season, or like what their season was, what their season could have been? Do I give them penalties for the penalties they got for the driving infractions or the car infractions? I went with a solid C. It wasn't a good season for them. You know, 2 wins, and your most tenured driver is no longer with you. C is about the best I could give them. I couldn't go to a D because they did have those 2 wins, and New Garden ended the season on a high note for them. But C, solid C.
This is another team we're miles apart on, and it's crazy for me. I sat here all afternoon thinking about this grade. And I thought about St. Pete, and I thought about Thermal, and then I got to Indy, and then I got to Nashville, and I thought, and I crunched numbers, and I thought, I didn't even take St. Pete from last year, the push to pass situation into consideration. I took from St. Pete this year to Nashville. And I looked at everything that happened around Team Penske. And as someone who's followed Team Penske for a long time, I started following racing in the late 90s. I really started getting into it in around 2000 and knew a lot about Team Penske. And obviously, when I got into IndyCar in 2008, 2009, I picked Willpower to be my driver, and it's hard to grade, and I kind of kept my bias out of this as much as possible. But I give Penske an F. I think this year is a failure for them, from the top all the way down. You look at lap 1 at St. Pete, Willpower crashes. You look at, we didn't even start the Indy 500 and Scotty Max crashed his car. You look at the whole, situation at Indy that cost 3 people, Tim Cindric, Ron Rzuski, and Kyle Moyer. All 3 of them lost their jobs. That's at the end of the day, I feel like the whole season was a failure. You lost your longest tenured driver. Now, was it from listening to the interview with James Hinchcliffe and on their podcast, it sounds like Willpower decided it was time for a change. Now, he didn't get into specifics on why it was time for a change. But the situation that they went through this year, it had to weigh on him as well. I mean, you hear people, the whispers from the fans all the time that Penske's are cheaters, and I'm not one of those people that say they're cheating. Now, I feel like every team in the garage pushes the rules to the max, because if you're not, why would you run, in the series? I feel like every team pushes the limits, and every once in a while they get caught. But when Penske's the owner of the series, now your team's in the spotlight for the second year. And like I said, I didn't count St. Pete with the push to pass from last year. But when your team is in the spotlight at the biggest race of the year, how do you get past that? And I've met Tim Cindric several times. I thought he was he's always very polite to me. Anytime I talked to him, he was super nice. But that was firing those 3 was probably the best thing for Team Penske to kind of get that heat off of them. But at the same time, you've seen what it did to the organization. They did not run well. Newgarden did do okay at Iowa and had a few issues that cost him one of those races. But just a terrible year for Penske. I mean, it was not the Penske perfect that they like. Willpower is the highest finisher in points in 9th. Somehow Scott McLaughlin finished 10th, but it was nowhere to be seen really all year. And then Newgarden managed to get his way up to 12th with the win at Nashville, but he was 17th there for a while. So horrible year for Team Penske. And I mean, I've seen the comments already. I'm probably the craziest person, but I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on that.
As I listen to the points that you made, I think they're hard. Facts are hard to disagree with. Obviously, me and Josh, the backgrounds that we have, facts are hard to dispute. And I know Josh is absolutely blown away. You can't see it, but he was blown off his chair. He just finally got back on there from the grade that you gave Team Penske, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say before we close things out. But those are facts that are hard to dispute or hard to argue against. If it wasn't for the veteran who got released, Will Power or Joseph Newgarden, Penske walks away this year with 0 wins. So, like I said, they're just hard to dispute, and I think you're justified, Michael, in the grade that you gave Team Penske. I think there's going to be a lot of as we talked about with Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan, I think there's going to be a lot of looking in the mirror over at Team Penske, and kind of curious to see how they come out of the gates in 2026. But I know Josh is chomping at the bit to chime in on this, because like I said, with your grade for Team Penske, and this is hard to do because Josh is a mountain of a man, but he was literally blown off his chair.
I was. Just for the simple fact, I wanted to him an F, but I went back and I looked and I saw, the 2 wins. The 2 wins brought him up to a D for me, and then just the fact that they didn't fold up like a lawn chair and cruise home. They still stayed in, kind of got me to a C, but I can understand the F. If you go by what I would imagine that Mr. Penske, the captain himself, would be sitting in his office at his lavish team headquarters, and he'd probably give him an F. He'd probably go so far as to say an NA, not applicable, because they shouldn't get a grade. So I know this season wasn't what he wanted, and they've had some internal problems that have caused some bad media coverage for them. So I'm sure they'll come back next year. It'll be interesting to see what their final driver lineup looks like. And I know the captain will be putting a lot of pressure on people next year to make the adjustments and get fixed and bring his organization back to prominence.
Yeah, I think Josh, you're absolutely right. There's going to be a lot of self-reflection, I think, over at Team Penske going into 2026. All right, that does it for our team grades, and obviously that will bring an end to this episode, to the 3rd season of the Push to Pass podcast. But before we do that, I know Michael has one more news item that I apparently missed this week.
Yeah, well, one more thing about the Team Penske situation. We kind of highlighted that Newgarden won at Nashville, but had Pato not had that right front tire failure, I'm not sure he would have won that race. So that kind of also played into it a little bit. But the one piece of information that we kind of missed, and it kind of come out this morning, Nate Brown kind of released this, and it's that at the end of 2026, NTT is pulling out of their deal with Arrow McLaren. And that all stems from the Alex Palou situation that's currently in the courts battle. It says here that NTT triggered an out clause in their deal with Arrow McLaren and will leave its role as one of the team's major sponsors after the 26th season. Much of the McLaren case versus Alex Palou hinges on the nearly $23 million in losses claimed from the renegotiated deal with NTT. And that will take effect at the end of 2026. So yeah, this situation with Alex Pelos, maybe going to McLaren, maybe not. And like we kind of touched on, I don't know if we talked much about the rumor of possibly Alex Palou going to Formula One. I know internally we've talked about it, but this whole battle, this legal battle with McLaren, is going to cost Alex Palou probably some cash. And I know we talked. I know Derik and I talked. I think we actually talked about it on the way back from Nashville. I think all three of us were talking about it. But what would be an easy way for Alex to get some money, but to jump the Red Bull seat and pocket some cash that he may have to pay out to Arrow McLaren? So just a little bit of a little bit more breaking news there of that whole Alex Palou situation that I feel like's been going on for 10 years now, but it really hasn't. But yeah, that rumor with Alex Palou going to F1 could definitely be interesting to follow and see what comes of that.
And just to add to the article that Nathan Brown put out this morning in the Star, that loss of revenue that Michael alluded to, that $23 million, was because NTT was under the assumption that Alex Palou would be in the number 6 car. That is where that loss of revenue comes into play. So a lot of things turning. The cog is turning in the lawsuit world when it comes to Alex Palou, Arrow McLaren, and everything else involved. All right, as I said, that unfortunately does bring us to a close for the 2025 season. Our third season of the Push to Pass podcast is now in the can, in the archives. Before we all step away, though, I will let Josh and Michael bid their final adieus here for 2025. Josh, take it away.
I just want to thank both of you for doing most of the legwork about doing the articles and sharing everything with us. Derik setting up the formats even while you were on vacation. Thank you both for putting up with sometimes my absence because I have another previous engagement to go do to make some money, but. It's been a great season. The Push to Pass podcast started as Derik, switching over from another type of podcast to this one, and I think he's turned this into a very reputable podcast. We're ever growing. Currently we have 46 people watching us, and hopefully next year the podcast can double that, and we can just continue to grow.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. If you haven't been following the last 3 years, I actually 3 years ago I was on my own podcast, and I met Derik at Detroit, and in my podcast we had some issues and things like that, and I co-hosted with Derik last year as Josh had his prior engagements, and then finally I come on mid-season last year and has kind of grown from there. The one thing that I would end with is how we started this season is we kind of give our pre way too early predictions. And some of us were right on, and some of us, were way off. And I think we can all go back and listen. But Derik, you picked for the most wins. You picked Joseph Newgarden. Josh, you picked Pato O'Ward, and I picked Scott McLaughlin. So Josh won that category. Polls, Derik, you picked Scott McLaughlin. Josh picked Joseph Newgarden, and I picked Will Power, and all three of us got one poll. So that was interesting. We talked about the drivers with the most DNFs. Derik, you picked poor Prema and Robert Schwartzman. Josh picked Louis Armstrong, and then changed to Louis Foster. I don't know. He was listening to jazz that day for sure. And then I went off the wall and picked Christian Rasmussen. And Louis Foster and Christian Rasmussen both had 3 DNFs, while Robert Schwartzman only had 2. And then for the championship pick, you guys went the easy route and you just picked the defending champion with Alex below. And I was on the Scott McLaughlin bandwagon big time this year, and that bit me very hard. So, just a great year of IndyCar, a great year to spend time on Tuesday nights talking IndyCar for the past 5 or 6, 7, 8 months now. I don't know. But it's been a great year, and can't wait for 2026.
And obviously, I share the same sentiments that Josh and Michael both said. This has been, I would have never thought 3 years ago that we would be completing our third season of this. Hell, I thought maybe after one episode that YouTube would kick us off or something, or at least kick me off. But apparently that's not the case. There can, I guess, bums like me can do this every Tuesday night. Definitely look forward to it. Sucks that it comes to an end, but we get a little bit. We'll go on a little bit of a hiatus, and then we'll be back in February to not only preview the 2026 season. Hopefully, we have the schedule by then. But we'll be previewing in no time the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg here in the not so distant future. So again, a huge thank you to all of the guests on the third season of the Push to Pass podcast. Can't wait to have all of those cast of characters back in 2026. And speaking of cast of characters, there's no other better than the two shining stars that makes this show go. I'm just the guy behind the desk pushing the buttons. Those two right there, Josh and Michael, are the ones that make this show go, and I'm sure they'll be back in 2026. And yes, you'll have to see my ugly mug again in 2026 as well. So bidding adieu for the final time in 2025, myself, Josh, Michael, everybody that makes up the Push to Pass podcast. We'll be back. I know it's going to be longer than what you like, but don't worry. We'll be back in no time at all. So one final time here from the Push to Pass podcast until February of 2026. So long, everybody.